Hello everyone and welcome to my video, which is really simple. It's just explaining how to set up VirtualBox and to install the latest ActiveScale virtual machine and storage node into VirtualBox so you can run demonstrations on your laptop. So the very first thing you need to do is obviously download VirtualBox, and that can be found here. So if you actually go to www.virtualbox.org, you'll see a download button like this. You straightforwardly click on this and select the platform and the packages based on your laptop that you're running. So if you're running a Windows server or a Windows host, you run this one. You run OS X, which I'm running today. If you're running Linux and Ubuntu, you click on this one. And if you're running good old standard Solaris, you can run on this one. 99% of the systems engineers I know will be running Windows or some form of OS X. So once you've downloaded it and installed it, it's straightforward. You will see an icon very similar to this one here. So what I'm going to do is open that up, and then you look at the VirtualBox Manager. And the next thing we need to do is import very, very quickly the images, the controller, and the storage node into the VirtualBox instances. So literally what we're going to do is do File, Import Appliance, and I'm going to import in the image that has been put up on Box, which is listed here, and I'll show you what it looks like. It's called Rest Test VM Alpha 1. And if you expand that out, you'll see two images. You'll see one that says storage and one that says controller. So the first one I'm going to import in is the controller node. So I'm just going to open that up. And the only thing I do actually change here is it says System 1. It's a little bit confusing. So what I've actually normally do is just delete off this test VM piece and just put on here controller. And then literally just make sure you've got enough memory installed and then simply import it in. That will start to import. It takes around 5 or 6 minutes to import that. Pretty straightforward, and you'll see that eventually appear here on the left. Voila, it's done. So you now actually got this thing called ActiveScale version 5 controller. We want to do exactly the name for the storage node next. So what we're going to do is import appliance again. And again, I'm going to browse to that folder, which I downloaded. There it is, there, downloads. And I'm going to import in the storage node here. So it's called it. So open that up. And again, I'm just going to change this to storage 1. Makes it a little bit less confusing for me. And then that's the storage element that's going to be part of the ActiveScale software that's listed underneath. So I'm going to put storage. Again, just check, less memory on this one, still 2 CPUs. It's running on Ubuntu on here, and it will have 2 network interface adapters, exactly the same as the ActiveScale controller. This will become apparent later on in the video. So I'm now going to import that in. And you see now we have an ActiveScale controller and ActiveScale storage. The other thing I also do, which is quite useful, is create a group. And in this case, I'm going to create a new group and put that in. And then the other one I'm going to do is put the controller in here as well. And I'm just going to, you can rename this group. I've called it ActiveScale. But this is basically grouping these two systems together. And the other thing I'm also going to do is I've downloaded a copy of Ubuntu. And I'm actually going to put that in there as well. And it will come apparent in a moment. So the next thing we need to do is actually boot up this controller. And before we do that, we should go to VirtualBox and go under Preferences. And under Preferences, you'll see a section that says Networks. And what I've done here is I've created a host-only network. So if you want to run this in a private network, you can do that. And basically create and I'll show you this. I basically create a DHCP server instance, which will automatically serve addresses inside there. But today, because I'm on a network already, I don't need to do this. So basically, I'm going to literally connect these two, or these controller and the storage directly on. So if I have a look at settings, the thing you'll see here under network on the controller is two things. You see the first one, which is a bridged adapter, which is directly connected to my Wi-Fi. And then you'll see a second adapter that says internal network, and it says active scale net. And this basically is the internal network at the back end that's going to connect the controller to the storage element. So I hit that. And again, here on the storage element, just check these settings out again. So again, we're going to go to network. Again, it's bridged. You don't really need this bit, but I've left it on there. But the most important one here is the internal network, and it should say active scale. So again, that's going to link the storage node to the controller node. So next you do is just simply boot it up. So the first thing I normally do is start this one and do normal start. And you'll see this start to boot, and that's the controller coming up. Really, really straightforward. Off it goes. And then once it starts clicking over, I actually then bring up the storage node then and start this one, normal start. Let's bring up the storage node. And eventually when this boots, and both of these systems are running, you will see the complete system running together and linking together. And it's going to start up. It's just connecting here on the left. You can see it going through the network interfaces. You can see also that they've included in the image, which is really good, this thing called VirtualBox Editions. So you can actually shut down the virtual machine from inside this GUI. The other exciting thing as well about this is all of the packages are fairly up to date. So it's running quite an early version of Ubuntu, but it's fairly up to date with all the security patches, and it's very efficient inside this virtual machine. The other thing I'm going to do is bring up a Linux client. So under my settings here, really, really straightforward. It's got a network. The first step is just a bridge network straight onto my local network. Again, I could use some sort of host-only thing at the back end, which I've put in here, but in this case, I'm not going to enable that adapter. I don't need it. So all I'm going to do is run this straight off my local network that's running here. So let's boot this up. Really straightforward start, normal start. It's going to come up. And you can start to see now, I have 3 virtual machines running very, very simply in my environment. So you can see the storage node is waiting for the network configuration, and that's looking at the back end. You can see the active scale controller nodes running, and that's looking at what is basically setting up the rest of the network. And you can tell when this is complete because this will actually report and tell you how to log into the virtual machine. You can see the activity down here flashing away, which is cool. And then basically in my Linux box here, which I've created, all I've actually done is simply got a latest version of Linux. I've downloaded the settings, all the latest patches, and what I've also done here as well is on the internet browser is basically put Firefox, which comes as default. You could actually put Chrome in here as well if you wanted to update with Chrome. So entirely up to you what you're going to use. And then from the interface here, what I've done is I'm just using a bog standard shell, and I've downloaded a package called S3CMD, and you'll see here this command basically is the tool that we can query the active archive. So it's come up here on the left hand here, it says backend Ubuntu's loaded, and if you actually start to see here, it's told me that we're now ready to log in to the active archive front-end GUI. There's no local root login or root access, so you're almost better off just putting these away. This is the one you need to remember, this one on here on the left, and what I'm going to do really simply is just use my local browser to log into this now. So if I actually look at this interface here, so if I type in that address, okay, as I said before, we're just going to look at these. This is the interface that we're going to load on. So if I go here and I type this address, PS, and I'm actually going to put in, and remember it is secure, so I'm just going to put in here 192.168.10.218, and remember to put the port number at the end as well. It's going to come up as not secure. That's because obviously there's no certificate. Just ignore that, and then basically we're just going to use in the account here, which is admin, and then basically administrator spelt slightly different. with a T, and then a number O, and then an R and a dollar for the S at the end. So hopefully that will go in. And as you can see here, it's pretty clear. It's coming up with a really nice clean dashboard. It's showing systems healthy. If we actually look here as well, it's going to come up with a location, and you can see they've got the controller node or the system node at the top, and you've got the storage node underneath here as well. So really straightforward. What I'm expecting all the SEs to do is be able to talk through this, explain things like the object sizes, number of objects, and also explain how the configuration is set up. Things to check: if you actually go to configuration and you go to object store, just always check that you've got the correct domain, and this is really important. And then obviously from an accounting perspective, it's been given here. So let's go to the Linux box, and I've got the Linux box booted up here. And let's go to the terminal. And what I'm going to do, hopefully you can see this, is I'm just going to expand that out a bit. I'm just going to run S3 CMD, and it's missing a command. So I'm going to just do ls, and it's told me that there's a bucket, S3 test, and we're ready to go. And then straightforward, you can then just put commands in here as well. So S3 CMD, put, and then we're going to put a local file, which I know is called bbc.pptx, and I'm just going to put it straight into the bucket, which is the S3 test bucket. Really, really straightforward. And that's going to put that up, and there it goes, copies it up. And this is a great one to show customers. You can show them things like how the system's going up. You can also go back to the GUI and start to show them things like the dashboard and how much of the data is going to be used. And you'll see this start to increase here. They say it's already shown at 6%. And I'm expecting SEs to just do that. The other thing as well, which is quite nice, is to go into things like the transactions. And if you have a look here, it starts to show and propagate out all of the transactions per second. And eventually this will start to propagate up there. And you can just see the one I've just done there with S3 CMD. So that's all I wanted to show today. Really, really simple. 101 on how to set up the ActiveScale virtual machine.